What if I told you a 15% global tariff could impact your home value, your mortgage rate, and the entire real estate market? On February 20, 2026, in a 6-3 Supreme Court ruling, President Trump's previous blanket tariffs were struck down, but just 24 hours later, he came back with something new. And this time, it's different. The Supreme Court ruled the old tariffs were unlawful. The administration had previously used emergency powers under IEPA. That authority, gone. So what did the White House do? They pivoted, now invoking Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. And here's the key. This allows a president to impose a temporary import surcharge of up to 15% to address large U.S. balance of payments deficits. Originally announced as 10% on Friday, by Saturday, February 21st, it jumped to the maximum 15% cap. This is not symbolic. This is strategic. Here's what most people are missing. Section 122 is strictly limited to 150 days. That's it. After 150 days, Congress must approve any extension, so this isn't permanent, unless lawmakers make it permanent. That creates a policy clock, and markets hate uncertainty, real estate especially sensitive to it. This is a flat 15% global tariff, but not everything is included. Canada and Mexico, excluded under USMCA, pharmaceuticals, exempt, electronics, exempt, certain agricultural products like beef and tomatoes, exempt, critical minerals and metals, exempt. But here's the kicker. This does not replace existing duties under Section 232, national security tariffs, and Section 301, unfair trade practices. So in some cases, tariffs stack. This is where it gets interesting, because this replaces much higher prior tariffs. Countries like China, India, and Brazil may actually see their effective tariff rates decline, but close allies, the UK, Japan, South Korea, they previously had lower negotiated rates. Now, they face increases. Even the European Union postponed a major trade vote, the Turnberry Agreement, waiting for clarity. Translation? Global trade relationships just shifted. And that matters for housing. Let's connect the dots. Tariffs increase import costs. Higher import costs can raise construction material prices, appliance costs, development expenses, inflation pressure. Inflation pressure can push bond yields higher, keep mortgage rates elevated, slow buyer activity. And here's the reality. Even if some countries see reduced tariff burdens, a flat 15% global surcharge still creates pricing pressure. Analysts warn consumers will feel it, and the administration is accelerating Section 301 investigations, meaning higher duties could still come. If you're a homeowner or investor, watch these 3 indicators. 1. Mortgage rate trends. 2. Builder sentiment. 3. Inflation data, because tariffs influence supply chains. Supply chains influence inflation. Inflation influences rates. Rates influence home values. This is all connected, and this 150-day window, it creates both risk and opportunity. We're entering a new trade chapter, not emergency tariffs, not blanket authority, but a structured time-limited strategy. The real question is, will Congress extend it? Will trade partners retaliate? And how will markets price this in? If you own property, or you're thinking about buying or selling, this is not background noise. This is market-moving policy. Stay informed, stay strategic, and stay ahead of the shift. A new 15% tariff has been issued under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, and while most headlines focus on higher import costs, the real story is hidden in the exemptions, because what's not taxed could determine whether housing prices rise, construction slows, or supply chains stay intact. If you're buying, selling, investing, or building, this matters. Let's break it down fast. The administration issued a 15% tariff under Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, a tool used during trade imbalances. But unlike broad tariff waves in the past, this one comes with strategic carve-outs designed to protect supply chains, trade agreements, essential industries, and that's where things get interesting. First major exemption category, regional trade agreements. Under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, compliant goods from Canada and Mexico are exempt. That's huge, because Canada supplies lumber, Mexico supplies construction components. Both are critical to home building. Also protected, CAFTA DR nations, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, especially for textiles and apparel. For housing markets, this reduces immediate shock to certain construction inputs, but that's just the beginning. the administration carved out products that cannot be produced domestically in sufficient quantities. That includes automotive, passenger vehicles, light trucks, buses, and most auto parts are exempt from this 15% surcharge, although other duties may still apply. Why does that matter for real estate? Because auto pricing impacts consumer debt ratios, which impacts mortgage approvals. Next, aerospace, civil aircraft, engines, components, exempt, electronics and semiconductors. Certain consumer electronics are exempt. That protects tech supply chains and major tech-driven housing markets. Active pharmaceutical ingredients are exempt. That stabilizes healthcare supply, and healthcare employment hubs are massive drivers of local housing demand. Specific agricultural items are exempt: beef, tomatoes, oranges, coffee, bananas, cocoa, spices, energy products, oil, coal, energy-related imports, and critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, and graphite, essential for batteries and manufacturing. Fertilizers not sufficiently available in the US are also exempt. Why should a homeowner care? Because energy costs influence construction expenses, transportation costs, mortgage rate pressure, inflation trends, energy stability, and housing stability. To prevent stacking multiple layers of taxation, goods already under Section 232 or Section 301 duties are generally excluded from this new 15% surcharge. That includes steel, aluminum, copper products, semi-finished lumber. Now this is key for real estate, because steel and lumber costs directly impact new construction, renovations, commercial development. Avoiding stacking keeps builders from getting hit twice, and that stabilizes pricing pressure, at least temporarily. Here's what many people missed: the de minimis exemption, which allowed packages under $800 to enter duty-free, has been suspended. That means low-value imports will no longer automatically bypass tariffs. For small contractors, for flippers ordering materials, for small businesses, costs could rise at the micro level, and small cost increases add up across housing markets. Here's the big picture. This isn't a blanket inflation bomb. It's targeted, strategic, selective. The exemptions are designed to protect core supply chains, construction inputs, energy markets, major trade partners, but the removal of de minimis and potential ripple effects could create localized price pressure, short-term supply shifts, market uncertainty, and uncertainty affects buyer psychology, which affects listing strategy, negotiation leverage, timing decisions. This is why understanding trade policy is now part of understanding real estate. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing, now is the time to understand how macro policy impacts micro markets. Because the people who win in real estate, they move before the crowd. If you want hyper-local insights on how this affects your market specifically, reach out. Let's build your strategy before the next shift.
Your ultimate hub for real estate insights, breaking news, entrepreneurial wisdom, investing strategies, and self-development hacks. If you're ready to expand your mind and stay ahead of the game floor, you're in the right place. Subscribe now. Your future self will thank you.